Have you ever thought that maybe you are a pervert? Or have you applied that label to someone else? According to ChatGPT, when someone calls a person a pervert, they usually mean that the person's sexual thoughts, interests, or behavior are seen as abnormal, inappropriate, or morally wrong. It can refer to someone who shows sexual interest at inappropriate times, like making sexual comments in normal conversation, is overly focused on sex, has sexual interest that others view as unusual, or acts in a creepy or boundary-violating way, like staring, unwanted comments, invading privacy, etc. All of that has to do with the word pervert. Today, I want to explore that term, especially when it comes to the idea of our preoccupation with all things sexual. Welcome aboard.
Guys ready?
When it comes to porn, are you stuck, spinning out, or slipping backwards in your life? If so, then welcome to the Finding Traction podcast, a show dedicated to those who are looking to gain recovery momentum away from porn and toward the life and relationships they have always hoped for. Now, here's your host, Vern Tomke.
Let me just say welcome aboard. If you are new to the Finding Traction course, we really look and focus in on helping guys go through their first full year of porn recovery. And we're approaching 200 now, so 200 different episodes. And let me just say, if you're looking for some help, you can get a bunch of free resources on our Circle Learning platform. The link is on the show notes, and you go on there, you can watch a couple videos that are the first couple in the 52-week video course, Finding Traction. You can get a number of planning tools and worksheets that are there. All of that is on Circle. Also, if you're looking for a group, just other guys, right now I have, I think, 3 guys, and we're looking for 3 or 4 other guys. We connect weekly. We connect on WhatsApp as well. We walk through the course. So if you are looking for a group, it's a great time. Spring is on the way, and you can look for some help. We'd love to have you connect with us about how to join one of our Finding Traction groups. If you want to connect with me or just do a free Zoom call with me, please reach out to me, email me at bandofbrothers.care@gmail.com. Okay, well, let's return to this word pervert, especially in relationship to our idea of all things sexual, how and what kind of relationship we have to all things sexual and porn in particular. Now, if you remember the last podcast, I spoke about the whole process of arousal, and I gave some ideas as to how to re-engineer that process. And really, the whole idea of that podcast was how to go from being a victim to being an owner. How to go from seeing arousal as something that happens to us, where we're just passive recipients, blown by the wind or tossed by the waves, and changing our approach to realizing that actually we are choosing to engage with arousal to our detriment when it comes to our struggles. Now, I want to return to one part of that process, the very first part, because I want to clear up something that could be a misunderstanding with something that you could have come away with. And what I said was, in that process, it starts with the word interest. Our interest in all things sexual. And what I said then was, we're all sexual people. So we are going to be interested in all things sexual. Now, I want to challenge that idea that all people are sexual and all people are interested in sex to the same degree. First of all, if you look back at your sexual history, I don't know where you are in the continuum, but you might, for example, say something like, I have always been sexually precocious. I've always had an abnormal interest or curiosity, even from a young age, in all things sexual. So that could describe you. Or you might say, I was somewhere else on the continuum. I didn't really think a lot about sex even into my maybe early teenage years. I might be one of those, what you would call a late bloomer. Or maybe you're somewhere in between those two extremes. But here is something that I want to challenge and what I want to tell you. You have control over the level of your sexual interest. Okay, Vern, you may say, you're going to need to unpackage that. Do I actually have control over how interested I am in sex? How big of a part or how big of a role it plays in my life? And I would say absolutely. So I want to start and walk through 3 different areas where I am telling you, you have greater control than you realize. First of all, I want to start with what you believe. Now, Patrick Carnes was one of the pioneers of the field of sex addiction, and he noticed that there are a few common beliefs that undergirded most of the addictive thinking and behavior around the area of sex. And this was one of the key beliefs, the belief that sex is my most important need. Here's what he observed. The more we believe this, the more our addictive, obsessive thinking grows, and the more our life revolves around sexuality to the exclusion of everything else. Over time, we become preoccupied with sex. It's like sex on the brain. I heard that phrase before. Sometimes in Christian circles, people will use the word idolatry and, to describe that kind of approach. And what they're really trying to say in a religious sense is somebody in this place has made something which is a good thing, and they've made it an ultimate thing. It's the number one thing. Here's another version of faulty thinking that I've come across. A term that someone much smarter than me called essentialism. And this is how this thinking plays out. Again, these are all the things that we have come to believe or choose to believe. So this is what essentialism does. Essentialism combines or puts together my sexual interest, arousal, and passion, and it combines them with my identity. Now, the idea of essentialism is this: for me to be a healthy, normal human being, it is essential that I express it, that I give freedom to it, that I act on it, that I don't repress it. And the whole idea is the more that we entertain what is a mistaken belief, the more passive we become in determining our sexual future. All of that is around this term, essentialism. So whether we just think this is essential to my identity, that I live out this identity, or whether or not we choose to believe that sex is my most important need, the bottom line is, by us choosing to believe those things, what it does is it leaves us just passively accepting and going along with that growing sexual preoccupation. It grows, expands, it has its way in our lives. But what if we challenge those lines of thinking and replace it with a healthier line of thinking, a more active way of thinking? You know what? I won't die without sex. Expressing my sexuality or exploring the limits of it is not essential to my well-being. Sex is but one expression of my need and care for others. The nurturing that I long for actually can come from a variety of experiences. Sex may be one part of my life, but it is still just one part. It needs to take its proper place. You see, all of those confront the idea that sex is my most important need, or the essentialism that it's just necessary for me to walk out my sexual inclinations. All of that fits with this idea, I am in control. Sex does not control me. I am an owner, not a victim. See how what we believe is absolutely essential here. Now, let's transition from what we believe to what we feed. You've probably heard the saying, feed what you want to grow, starve what you want to die. Now, I'm not saying that by starving all sexual thoughts and urges, you will cease to be a sexual person. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is this, and I've noticed this again and again and again. What you feed grows. The more you think about something, the bigger it grows. Boy, I've sure noticed that with politics. The more time I spend researching, looking at political stories, guess what I think about more and more and more? Yes, politics. It works that in any way. The more you engage with something, the greater it grows in your thoughts. Most of us know instinctively, yeah, that makes sense. And I think it's in lesson 2 of our course, we talk about these two things, preoccupation and obsession. Where preoccupation is a mental preoccupation with the object of our attachment, whether it's real or fantasized. Obsessive thoughts have to do with basically the focus and the continuing focus, the centrality of how much domineering those thoughts are in our thinking. And they build in intensity as they take hold of our inner life. Preoccupation, obsession. So what I'm saying here is we have control over just how big and overwhelming our sexual appetites and urges grow in our thinking, and as a result, in our actions. I mean, I think it was, we took 2 weeks off for Christmas, and me and my wife said, you know what? We want to relax. We're going to not watch any news or social media for 2 weeks. We just gave it a complete rest. We didn't talk about it. We didn't watch it. And for 2 weeks, guess what? It was like it didn't have a big role in our lives. So again, you have more control than you think you do, right? First of all, in what you choose to believe, and second of all, what you choose to feed. Finally, let me say this. This transitions perfectly into how we choose to behave. Now, when most of us think, for example, about the word pervert, we think about someone who is into some sort of weird or kinky or abnormal sexual behaviors. And yeah, it can include that. But what I want to do is I want to return to one of the key elements of that description, which is this, with the word. It's someone who has let sexuality, sexual urges, sexual thinking, sexual focus take over their life. They become, in one sense, out of control because it begins to dominate them in different areas of their lives. And the more you choose to believe things like that it's okay, the more you choose that it's important to walk these things through, the more you feed it, eventually this plays out in your behavior. If you are consumed with sex in your thinking, porn, etc., it begins to affect every other part of your life. And this is maybe the old classic idea of where we think of someone as a perv, is it begins to affect your relationships. You can't have a normal conversation with a girl. You make people uncomfortable. You're always making sexual jokes, or thinking about even some girl is talking to you or smiling and you're thinking of a potential sexual scenario. You can't even distinguish between friendliness and someone coming on to you. Sex consumes every part, it seems, of your waking life. You're constantly rating people on a 1 to 10 basis, right? Overnight, let me say not overnight, but slowly but surely, you are becoming more like the P word. And yes, over time, what you're interested in can go from mainstream to more fringe sort of things. But what I'm saying to you is your behaviors are just an outgrowth of what you choose to believe and what you choose to feed. Now, I am not saying we need to stop being sexual people. Sexuality is a gift. But what I am talking about is how to keep it from being super inflated, overinflated, all-consuming. I was trying to visualize this, and I came up with a visual diagram that I think summarized the difference between a healthy sexual person and an unhealthy sexual person, the P word. And if you want to see this diagram, go on to the Circle Learning app, and under free resources, I've created this I think it's a really neat diagram that physically or visually shows the difference. Now, if you're driving or you're not able to do that right now, I'll try to explain it for you, but it's better to look at it. So with a healthy person, what happens is you have yourself in the middle, me, that's your middle circle, and then you have a circle around it where, whether we want to call this spirituality or your deepest values, things that are that you use to orient your life. It could be your relationship with God. So you have me, but then you have those deepest values that you want to live your life by. And then the third circle is divided up into a whole bunch of different quadrants. And so that second circle touches on all of these outer quadrants, whether it's your work, whether it's your kids, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your finances, whether it's your hobbies, etc., etc. So you have me, then you have your deepest values, and that informs and affects all of these quadrants in your life. Okay, that's healthy. But then you have the second circle. Again, you can see this. And you have me, there's still you. But then the next circle out of that, after me, becomes sex, 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 and sex. And that paradigm, that lens, becomes an overriding focus of your life, a preoccupation, and it affects how you interact and see every other dimension of your life. And over time, that increasingly begins to describe you. So, do you want to be abnormal or do you want to be normal? Do you want to be healthy? Do you want to be unhealthy? So, I don't think the question is, am I a pervert or not? I think the real question is, what do I believe? What am I feeding? And as a result, what am I, by my behaviors, growing into as a sort of person? We'll see you next time.